So I want to start out by maybe just probing our brains a little, having us think about the information we consume and what we believe. People believe what they hear and see first and what they hear and see the most. So think about that. What we hear and see first and what we hear and see the most. It becomes integrated into our minds as truth immediately, which means we have a truth bias. We are biased to believe things right away, even if they may not be true. Now, many of us in this industry, we're more skeptical. We like to think of ourselves as critical thinkers, right? So we don't believe immediately what we see. We question it. But that's also a bias, is that you think that you may be thinking critically or more critically than the general population. We question things because we are seeking truth and integrity. And there is literally a war for truth and integrity in our world today. Now, there's many different directions we can go with this topic, and I'm not going to go the political route because that's very scary. I don't want to be killed during my presentation. But I want you to think about how we consume information. And today we're going to talk about the way that artificial intelligence is changing the way we receive information. A study from the Copenhagen Institute for Future Studies predicts that 99% of information on the internet is going to be produced by AI by 2030. Now, that sounds far off, but 2030 is not that far off. If you consider how much of the internet could be produced by computers, that can be a little overwhelming. How are we going to differentiate between what humans have said and produced and what computers are producing? A wise man once said, "Technology is a useful servant, but a dangerous master." I like this quote because it reminds us that throughout the history of humanity, technology created for good has also been used for malign purposes. That's what we're going to be talking about today. Now, those of us in information security, our jobs revolve around integrity of information. So even though we may ask, why is it our job to defend against AI or to learn about disinformation, I think it's inherent in our job. It is to the core of what we do, is providing information of integrity. Because if we don't know what truth versus fiction is, then how can we produce solid defense mechanisms? So, today I'm going to present to you the good, the bad, and the ugly of artificial intelligence and its impacts, especially on companies. And I want you to look through the lens of a futurist. Let's think years in the future and explore how can we strive to mitigate those negative impacts and prepare for healthy use of AI and defend against the malign use of AI. Now, I want to introduce myself really quick. My name is Charity Wright. I'm a consultant for threat intelligence at Recorded Future. I started my career in intelligence, just military intelligence, as a Chinese linguist working at NSA. And that's where I really fell in love with intel. That's where I fell in love with spy work and trying to predict threat actors' future actions. So in 2015, I pivoted over to private sector where I worked cyber threat intelligence for multiple different enterprises. And throughout my career so far, I have been drawn to various threat intel topics. For a couple of years, I spent most of my time in the dark web, posing as a hacker, spying on what they're doing, trying to translate Chinese and interpret bro speak in the dark web. Then I kind of was drawn towards disinformation at the beginning of the pandemic because of how much disinformation was coming out about vaccines, masks, the virus itself. But throughout the years, China has remained my specialization. So over the past couple of years at Recorded Future, I've been a researcher focusing in really hard on how the Chinese government and military and intelligence agencies are trying to manipulate markets, manipulate diplomacy, and conduct malign influence around the world. Now, throughout all of this, over the past couple of years, one trend started popping up, and that is the use of artificial intelligence in disinformation. So today, I want to just jump into that topic and start going for it. So there is good, bad, and really ugly when it comes to AI uses. Let's start with some good purposes. We use artificial intelligence for all kinds of things in security: automation, simplifying tasks, securing infrastructure. One of the great things about AI is that it learns over time. We train it, we teach it, it learns over time. So it's a growing area where we can utilize it for good purposes. AI identifies unknown threats. It can handle a lot of data. It improves vulnerability management. AI can prioritize threat defense, automate tasks, accelerate detection and response times, secure authentication, which will come up again in this presentation, the use of AI to manipulate authentication, and we can also use it to secure authentication. AI can also reduce false positives and take on other AI. So a battle of the bots, if you will, the good versus the bad. We can use artificial intelligence and machine learning to hunt down those other automated accounts and automated, let's say, processes, identify them, and defend against them. But we know the benefits of some AI. We use them in our security processes. Today, unfortunately, we're here to talk about the bad and the ugly. Now, I call the bad the malign use of artificial intelligence to enable cybercrime. Let me just get to that slide there. So right now, threat actors all over the world are jumping on the opportunity to use AI, whether that's ChatGPT, language models, deepfake videos and photos. They are jumping on this opportunity right now to take advantage of that for malign purposes and to advance their objectives for cybercrime. Right now, we have observed all of the things on this, all of the processes and TTPs listed here on this slide being used right now. They're using AI to develop malware, to write malicious code, to conduct code injection attacks, to enhance phishing techniques. And if you've ever played with ChatGPT, it can be very useful in fixing your own spelling and grammar mistakes. If you don't use English as a native language, ChatGPT can help you significantly in writing convincing natural language. Now, threat actors in Russia or China or anywhere around the world who don't have a native language ability in English are using programs like ChatGPT to create very convincing phishing emails and attacks. Add on top of that financial fraud, executive impersonation, which we'll touch on a little more, content plagiarism, and anybody here work in the entertainment industry? Yes. I have several clients working in the entertainment industry around this area, and one thing that they're very concerned about right now is the plagiarism that comes from voice cloning and deepfake video technology. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but there's videos out there and there's audio clips that have been used to clone certain musical artists' voices and create completely new music that has never been created before in the style of Drake, in the style of Future, in the style of you name the artist. That is a major concern not only to those artists, but also the production companies and everyone involved in managing that particular artist. Yes, sir?
Isn't that the reason why there's a holdup with the Writers Guild? Because they don't know, the one thing is about streaming, that's one subject, but the other big topic, which nobody's figured out, right, how to get the revenue from AI generated from like the futures of the world, but like you name any actor, Ben Affleck, whatever, you know, what the effect of AI is or writing. I think it's
I'm not
problem.
intimately familiar with what's going on with those particular protests. I have heard about it, but I would imagine that this would impact them significantly. The writers of the music expect royalties as well. So if they're being cut off from their revenue, their pay, that's a significant impact. There's a lot of ways in which AI is impacting individuals, and we'll touch on that a little bit. Scams, frauds, things like this that we're talking about. And then we also want to address, as a company, how can we protect ourselves against these types of threats? So first step is just awareness. What types of threats are out there that may impact our organization, and how can we think ahead and get ready to defend against those future threats? Okay, so has anyone here actually played with ChatGPT online? Okay, I have too. Actually, I listed my car on Turo for rental. I just got a new Mercedes. And I thought, what do I want to say to describe this car in my Turo description? So I had ChatGPT write up a great description of my car and lure people in to rent it. So ChatGPT is being used for a lot of great purposes right now. And just out of curiosity, I went into our Recorded Future platform, which is, let's say, an intelligence cloud. And we have a new feature called Recorded Future AI. And what its job is, it's our own version of GPT, not ChatGPT, but our own model of GPT. And it is used to summarize intelligence findings. So if you go query some set of intelligence, like let's say you put together a complex Boolean search query, the AI summarizes the findings. So I asked Recorded Future AI, what is ChatGPT? And this is what it came up with. ChatGPT, an AI chatbot, has been used to produce clean, convincing text that repeated conspiracy theories and misleading narratives, which has sparked backlash from a former White House AI policy advisor. There are concerns that models like ChatGPT could be used for large-scale disinformation and cyber attacks if some checks and balances are not set up. Cyber criminals have started to use ChatGPT for spreading disinformation, malware development, social engineering, phishing, malvertising, and money-making schemes. OpenAI, the company that gave us ChatGPT, has emphasized the importance of generating accurate, trustworthy, and impartial information when it comes to disinformation. Europol has also claimed that AI chatbots like ChatGPT can exacerbate problems of disinformation, fraud, and cybercrime. It makes stuff up based on the information it is fed. So just like any AI, we have to train the model to be more accurate, to be more concise, and to add nuance. Now, granted, this is a result of what our language model has access to, which is all threat intelligence-based and news-based sources. So far, the AI cannot sense or detect the difference between truth and fiction. And so that is one of our greatest challenges right now in countering this type of thing. For example, I use Recorded Future's platform to research Chinese malign information and influence operations. So I monitor a variety of sources that come directly from the CCP and directly from PLA, research papers out of universities in China, things like that. So when I queried the platform to summarize what malign information or disinformation has been spread by these sources over the past 2 weeks, what it did is it just spit out the false narratives. Instead of telling me they say this, but it has been proven to be untrue, it just says, oh, China says blah, 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 and gave me false information. So that's when I kind of raised some red flags and said, hey, data team, can we somehow train the AI to better detect the truth versus fiction, or what they said or quote or cite particular sources. So, very interesting definition of ChatGPT. Let me see if I had any other notes on this particular. Nope. Okay. So, ChatGPT is being used for cybercrime. This is the bad part of AI. This is how threat actors just jump on opportunities to use new technology. These are some headlines that I took straight out of the news. Hackers are abusing ChatGPT to write malware. And also the QR code here is a direct link to our report that we wrote on this topic called iChatbot. I promise I'm not phishing you. It should take you directly to the report. So what we found in our report, some of our key judgments, is that ChatGPT can write code in a number of different programming languages that exploit critical vulnerabilities. ChatGPT can be abused to write the malware payload. It can be abused to write malware configuration files and establish C2 mechanisms. It can significantly enhance the effectiveness of phishing attacks and business email compromise campaigns. It can be used to craft effective social engineering content, which I want to show you some examples, and create mirror websites of your company's website. It can also be used, as we said, to write very convincing scams. So these are some of our major concerns right now related to cybercrime and how it may impact our company. You may not know when you're hit with a particular malware that it was written by ChatGPT. You may not know when your company gets hit with ransomware that ransomware group used ChatGPT, but I can tell you this is lowering the barrier to entry for cyber criminals. You no longer have to be a sophisticated hacker to be able to write malware code. So where are these beginner hackers and these novice hackers getting the tools that they need to write this kind of malware? I mean, it's not just ChatGPT. There are multiple tools used that all go in together. We looked at our dark web sources and we saw a significant increase in chatter about malign use of ChatGPT in dark web forums. Now, one observation we made is that most of these comments and mentions are in Russian language forums, and most of them are very high-tier forums where the real hackers are talking about how they can package up new code, new malware, and new tools and sell it to lower-level hackers that are just trying to break into the industry. So as you can see here, translated from Russian, there was a prompt for ChatGPT to disable secure content policy. ChatGPT can be used to launch cyber attacks. From Exploit Forum, which is a renowned hacker forum, it says, I'm opening this thread to discuss everything related to ChatGPT, social engineering, collecting logins, passwords, 2FA codes, etc. It could even be used as a method for malware distribution. There is significant chatter, and this was just, the increase was just between January and April of this year. So a lot to look at in the dark web. Let me bring this back up. Sorry, because I'm mirroring my screen, I can't see my notes here. Okay, I'll go without it. Okay, so in the dark web, I used to teach a class called Dark Web Demystified. It's actually very easy to get access to the dark web. Has anybody been on tour and explored dark web forums? It's pretty easy, honestly. You could just look up a YouTube tutorial and figure out how. Of course, there's a lot of security measures you should take at home to protect yourself and anonymity. But it's very easy for anyone to just break into cybercrime using chats and forums like this and figure out how to buy a tool for $20 to start writing malware. Major concern for us. Now, on the thread of what is bad about AI, we're seriously concerned right now about voice cloning technology. And a couple of facts that I looked up, 77% of voice scam victims have lost money as a result of the scam. 1/3 of them lost over $1,000. So we're talking about threat actors using voice cloning to sound like somebody that you know, somebody in your family, somebody from your company. They're calling you on the phone. They can spoof the phone number to look like your name And if it sounds like you and you're asking them to wire money, they're probably going to do it if you sound desperate enough. Where is the voice coming from? Recordings on social media. I do presentations like this all the time. They could easily clone my voice. Look at some of these recent headlines. The call is coming from inside the internet. AI voice scams on the rise with cloning technology. That panicky call from a relative, it could be a thief using a voice clone. The one at the bottom was actually a really scary, a sad story, but this lady in Scottsdale, Arizona was terrified when she received a call from an alleged, I don't know how to describe it. Somebody said they had taken her daughter and she was being, yes, yeah. So it was a pretty scary kidnapping experience, which turned out to be fake. To me, that's like personal terrorism. If somebody did that to me about my kid, I'd be freaking out. So we also looked at references to voice cloning on the dark web, and we wrote a completely separate report about that as well, which I'd be happy to share with you all after. And so you can see a significant spike around October of 2022. This particular chatter in the dark web was around malicious use, malign use of voice cloning for scamming techniques. So all of the fraud and scam forums were kind of blowing up with, hey, what's working for you? This is what worked for me. Sharing, collaborating, and selling tools, open source tools that can be used by anyone to conduct the voice cloning scams. Okay, one of the case studies I wanted to share with you related to voice cloning is a company lost $35 million as a result of voice cloning scam. And this was back in early 2020 when the technology wasn't widely available for free. It was an unnamed Japanese company located in Hong Kong. Their tactic was to steal the money by tricking the victim into thinking that the director on the phone is from his parent company, was calling to have money wired to the director. And he was saying, hey, we're making a big acquisition. I need you to wire me this very large amount of money. It was, they used voice cloning. They used a spoofed name in the caller ID. And they also sent an email from that director and from a lawyer who was then confirming the sale and confirming the process to just add that extra layer of, we're going to convince him even more by having an email to back it up and a separate person as a contact. All of that was fake information. The guy sent the wire, and he probably got fired. The procedures, they created the appearance of involvement from all necessary departments, and the investigation included multiple countries. They eventually discovered there was over 17 individuals involved in this particular scam, and they divided the money up amongst different banks in different countries. So it can happen to companies. Unfortunately, social engineering has become very effective. Now, I want to move on to the really ugly part. And when I talk about ugly, I'm talking about the stuff that is just confusing. It's hard for us to make sense of. It can be used for bullying. These are fake headlines that were written by ChatGPT type programs and used to try to manipulate markets, diplomacy, and overall sentiment in a target country. Now, influence operations, it's hard to understand. It is technology meets psychology. They're trying to convince you of something or convince you to oppose something. There's always an objective in mind, and they use manipulative headlines like Russian President Vladimir Putin announces surprise resignation, citing desire to allow for fresh leadership and new ideas. Hey, if I saw that headline, I'd be like, wait, what? I need to confirm this information because I was not aware. All different types of things. These are examples of malign disinformation headlines. Now imagine tensions are very high between the US and China right now. What about a miscalculation? How close are we getting to an actual conflict or naval warfare? And how likely are we to be tilted one way or another by disinformation like a false headline? This is something that we're very concerned about, especially for geopolitical tensions around the world. But disinformation can be used for more than just targeting countries and governments. It can be used for targeting companies, like leaving hundreds of negative reviews for a company that can significantly affect their business. The dark side of deepfakes. I want to touch on deepfakes because right now we're seeing threat actors use a combination of AI tools. They're using GPT, they're using deepfake videos, photos, fake headlines, and they're combining it all to create events that are not actually happening. So deepfakes use a form of AI called deep learning to make images and videos of fake events or fake occurrences. It started out really being used predominantly for pornography. They were generating fake pornography. And then it turned into an even more malign purpose, which was revenge porn. They were using face alerting, face removal and replacement software, and also clothing removal applications to create fake pornography of an ex-girlfriend or an ex-wife or somebody they wanted revenge on. One company identified that up to 95% of deepfake videos posted online were pornographic in 2021. So that's where it kind of started, and now it has evolved into other things. Now, state-sponsored threat groups are discovering how they can manipulate audiences around the world using the combination of deepfake technology and voice cloning and, you name it, ChatGPT fake headlines. A deepfake as a service is actually offered on the dark web in most forums. They are creating tools that make it very easy for just anyone to buy the tool and create some kind of fake headline. Now, I know we don't have time, we're out of time. So I'm not gonna be able to show you guys this video, but I encourage you to take a look at this video on your own time if you can. Just look up Elon Musk giving crypto investment advice. This is a deepfake video that looks very real. It looks like him, it sounds like him, but he is advising his followers to invest in a certain kind of cryptocurrency. As you can imagine who that might benefit. These types of tools are being used for malign purposes to target companies like yours and mine. And there are many ways that we can defend against them, of which I don't have time to go into all of it, but I will be happy to send out this slide deck afterwards with links to the videos. These are some examples. And how do we respond? We have to evaluate the risk to our company. How resilient are we to these types of tools and attack methods? And also just take action from the top down. If you're a leader in security, it's going to be your responsibility to prioritize future threats like AI and disinformation. Thank you for your time today.
Wow, thank you so much for such a great talk, Charity. And it kind of reminds me, it's quite concerning of war games when the computer said, shall we play a game? How about global thermonuclear warfare? And it was hard to tell what was real and what was not.
While I take questions, I'm going to leave this up on the screen if you want to take a screenshot. This is some of the security solutions I suggest.
Would you like to pick
Sure.
up people?
Who has a question? Yes.
At the risk of alienating
Sorry, I'll bring you the mic. Would you like to stand? Sure.
At the risk of alienating myself, I have to admit I use TikTok, and one of the things on TikTok that has become very popular is the voice generation and the face deepfake videos. Mm-hmm. So what are some things that maybe less computer literate or less computer literate people should do to recognize and remediate those videos and things?
Oh, I'm going to tell you what I tell my kids. They're 13 and 14, and they are on TikTok on their own devices. We have a lot of security settings set up. But I tell them, don't believe everything you see on TikTok. My daughter comes to me with some bizarre facts, and she's, Mom, did you know? And I look at her, and she said, I know, don't believe everything you see on TikTok. But I think, remember, we have a truth bias. We want to believe things that we see right away. And if it riles up some emotion, anger, excitement, whatever, that intense emotion is probably a response to something that they intended to get from you. They want you to have that response. If you have an intense defensive response or anger response or what's happening to this country, I challenge you to confirm if that information even was real or not in the first place. Yes, sir.
Well, you really addressed a lot of important things, but one of the things that I'm already seeing today, talking to people, is that people believe AI works, causes them to make huge mistakes. They assume that it's telling the truth when we must assume it's lying. How do we address that in the corporate world?
Absolutely. Confirm with solid, reliable sources of information. If you look up my name and look up some of the presentations I've done, they're probably recorded online. I talk a lot about choosing good sources of information, solid, reliable sources, checking with official sources and things like that. So I think it all comes back to, one, being skeptical, like some of us inherently are, but also just know that much of the news, much of the content that you see online, it will increasingly be produced by AI. So you have to be, okay, what is the source? If there's no source, there's no citation, immediately I don't believe what it's saying. I have to have a source.
Yes, we have time for one last question. We will have an extended break, and I'm sure we can mix in the break.
Yeah. Yes, sir. And feel free to come talk to me afterwards if you
Sure. Whether it's a simple thing such as a Amazon fake user review, or even a fake online travel review on Travelocity, versus, let's say, a deepfake that you were showing or about to show on YouTube, who or what organization should bear the responsibility of digital trust and safety?
Yeah, you know, I have a lot of clients in the travel industry, whether they're airlines, hotels, whatever, and this is something that they're grappling with right now, and they are bearing the responsibility for the security, the authenticity, and the ethics behind the reviews and who's leaving them and combating them. Much of those negative reviews are being left by networks of hundreds and thousands of bots. And we have seen this translate into disinformation on social media as well, too. We've seen floods, like a DDoS attack, of bots leaving the same phrases, hashtags, this and that. And we can also use those same tools to detect in those negative reviews, too. So I know the threat intel vendors in the room, like we're all trying to help those clients combat these problems and defend against them and help prevent them. But we need more minds on this. We need all of the brilliant minds in this room to help tackle this problem because it's an emerging threat, it's a consistent threat, and it's only going to get worse from here. I think that's all the time we have.
All right, guys.
Okay.
Well, another round of applause.